Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Allie if you're new here, and today I'm reading Edgar Allan Poe again. I started this series back in January. Well, that's when I posted the first part, but my Edgar Allan Poe journey has been over a year now of reading his work and making it my goal last year to finish his work and now having to bring it to this year. But I'm determined to finish it up with these next couple parts of the series because there will be at least one more part. Today's video is going to be me reading Edgar Allan Poe's satire works. I feel like I've accomplished the horror throughout last year. I read his work for a couple standalone videos. I read his work for some like 24-hour horror-a-thons and other readathons. I read a couple this past January for the Winterween readathon. And I also posted my first video, which is just finishing out his horror stories to get this series started. So this video, I will be getting through all of the rest of these satire stories from him that I have not read yet, and there's quite a few of them, while also completing this project from Witchy Stitcher. This is going to be my Edgar Allan Poe project. That's going to be the finale and the end-piece special decor item that I'm going to make and be able to hang up, and every time I look at it, remember all the different stories that I finally completed reading all of his work. So I'm super excited to start this video because I have my fabric from my great-grandma that I tie-dyed. It was blue, and I tie-dyed it this like crumpled look with black. I will show you guys soon. My first time ever going to be cross-stitching on fabric instead of Ada. And I'm going to be doing this beautiful image from Witchy Stitcher, and I just can't wait to get the project started, to read some of these books, and check in with you as I go. I look like a hot mess, but I have started my reading, and I have failed at my cross-stitch. So I wanted to check in. The first story I read, because I just want to go through these really quick, because I definitely want to speed run my reviews as much as possible during this part of my Edgar Allan Poe series, because for one, I am finding that I'm not so sure that Edgar Allan Poe is funny. I don't know how entertaining this part's gonna be because it might just be me giving very brief book reviews of stories that are very mid, if you will. But with that being said, I finished The System of Dr. Tarr and Professor Fether. I gave this one 3 stars. It is pretty much about this institution that is for like mental illness and that type of ordeal. They study practices of taking care of these patients and what they call the system of soothing. Our character that we're following is arriving to this place and having a tour and also staying for dinner. This dinner party does turn a little strange, a little bizarre, almost horror, if you will, because it leaves your mind with that ambiguous ending of, and not really ambiguous because you understand the humor that's coming. It is more of a dark humor. That's why I enjoy this one a little more. I'm landing at a 3-star with it because it was just boring for the most part. Like, it was just really hard to get through. And speaking of boring, I have The Literary Life of Thingumbob Esquire, which I gave 2 stars because it was so boring. I don't really understand what this was trying to do, but I found Tom's review on Goodreads, and it says, "The tale is one of Poe's most highly autobiographical and ironical sketches. He returns to the scenes of his youth in Richmond in this thinly disguised satire of his conversations with John Allan, Poe's foster father, about a literary future and in incidents that reflect his life in Richmond and around the warehouse of Ellis and Allen. Poe may have taken special pleasure in publishing the story first in a Richmond publication. In a speech on literary fame in the final paragraphs of the story, Poe speaks through Thingumbob to candidly reveal his own experiences in the periodical world and to express frustrations that he often felt in their dealings with contributors." Quote, "Look at me, how I labored, how I toiled, how I wrote. Ye gods, did I not write? I knew not the word ease. By day I adhered to my desk, and at night a pale student. I consumed the midnight oil. You should have seen me, you should." So I guess I could say, like, it does show what he was going for, but when I tell you the story dragged on, and it was a rather short story, so I just didn't have a great time with it. In most paragraphs, I was like, what? It was just a very confusing one, especially for what it was. So I did land at a 2-star, and I am hoping to get to a few more today. So bear with me, because I'm also trying to figure out what the hell to do with my cross stitch. As promised in my intro, I was going to show you guys the fabric that I am using for it. Isn't it beautiful? It was this blue, and then I tie-dyed it. I like did a crumple dye with black tie-dye when we tie-dyed shirts last summer, and I love how it turned out. I got it framed, ready to go, and then I looked high and low for some type of product that I could adhere to this and cross-stitch on, and there's like a dissolvable Aida, and that's what I was gonna get, but every review that I seen for it said this will leave like oily marks. Like, it is so depressing finishing a piece that you put so much time and energy into for it to leave an oil mess when you wash it. And I was like, no thank you. So then I looked at dissolvable paper, and I ordered the wrong kind. I was finally able to print it. I was like, I am ready to go. I'm ready to power through this cross stitch. And it printed very nicely, but it doesn't adhere at all. I don't know if I could maybe damp it a little bit, but I just feel like if I put any water on it, it's just going to evaporate. So I might try the corners or certain areas, but it's just so hard to do that because I can only do so much on what I'm working with right now. I'm gonna have to like move it over as I go. I then started to freehand it, and I didn't like how that was looking, but I think it's just because I am doubling up. The string I got is so thick, and I've tried, it's weird. Like, I was like, I'm gonna need a lot of black floss, so I just got one of the balls. And so I tried separating it like I normally do with my floss, and it was literally just crumbling. It was the weirdest thing. I've never experienced that with cross stitching, so I'm so confused. But I do know that I have some more black floss somewhere, and I can pick up some more this week. So I don't know, I'm so confused on if I should just try to freehand this still, if I should maybe get a marker and just like dot where each small X needs to go. I don't know. But like, I wanted this to be like an easy project for me to just mindlessly do while I listen to Edgar Allan Poe and try to understand the words he is trying to tell me. And the fact that this is just a one color project, it's supposed to be fucking easy. So I don't know. I'm also like, the options are up in the air. I could just do it on Aida instead of this, which I will be upset because I really thought that this would just be so beautiful for my Edgar Allan Poe. It looks like a dreary night. I don't know. Or I might, my first thing I'm gonna try to do is wet this and then stick it. Just see if I can do that. I wonder if I even just lightly press on the back and then stick it to it. Maybe I cut it in half, so I do half of it at a time, or I can freehand it. So those are my options. I will check back in with you guys today when I read some more. Maybe I'll do some trial and error, trying to figure out what to do with this project. So I apologize for this angle, but I'm sitting here with nothing to do. I should have brought my cross stitch. I did decide to just go ahead and wing it. There's people everywhere and I'm just sitting here talking to myself, but I have in fact started it. I will just have to show you guys the next time I check in because yeah, I didn't bring it with me, but I should have because now I'm sitting here waiting. I actually started it and then like continued on, and I did like a whole post of like the fence, and it turned out so cool. I was like, you know what? I think I can wing this. I think I can just do it freehand. It might take me a little bit longer, which thankfully I still have this part and the next part. So I'll just try to get it done. But being a single shade, it shouldn't take me too long. But I didn't visualize how much space I was going to need doing it freehand and with that thick string, that I am not going to have space where I started. So now I've had to restart it down on the bottom so that I have plenty of space to grow. It's been a mess, you guys. I'm a mess right now with projects. I'll show you guys next time, but I did want to check in because I finished 3 more stories. The first one being how to write a Blackwood article. This is a part of his Zignora Zenobia. Alright, back home. I'm just as confused as you are of why that was abruptly ended, but it is what it is, and at least now I can show you the project. Where is it? Look how pretty that is. I think I'm gonna try to cut it out and make it into a bookmark, but this is how it is supposed to look, like that. And it would be starting it, but you see how close I am to the end? And the middle of the design goes up even further. So I'm like, I'm not gonna have room. I'm not gonna put in all that effort, all that time for me to just have to end up sewing extra on it, which is just gonna be another whole task. I might as well just start over. So I have started that same post over again. Down on the bottom, we have plenty of room to grow. I'm excited to just be making progress at this point, you guys. So back to what I was saying, I keep forgetting what these ones are called. They're not like as popular as like his horror, so you don't think about them all the time. And if you are wondering, that is my like washer and dryer, if you can hear that. They're just rumbling right now. But how to write a Blackwood article. This one, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like his satire, his humor just goes over my head. Like I'm like, what am I reading? What is funny about this? And I feel like he just kind of has a way of trying to make humor out of something. It just doesn't really land for me. I feel like for this one, I don't know where my ratings are at with this video. You guys will probably just know Editing Alley is just gonna have to crunch time, figure out the ratings. But I feel like this one I could probably land at a 3-star because I at least got what the humor was and what he was trying to do with the said character. I want to say I already butchered the name, but Signora is very pretentious and is just kind of going to, where was it again? Wants to write in a style of Blackwood's, a real Scottish magazine. And she goes there to learn, well, she goes there to write for this magazine, but kind of one of those things where she's just like, everybody knows who I am type of ordeal, to where she gets there and then this person is just describing to her what it takes and what you have to do to be able to write in this style to fit in this magazine. And the humor here, I guess, is just, from what I've gathered, the humor I gathered at all, if it was anything at all, was just this person describing the way Poe writes about, and even like, I guess what maybe back then people were critiquing Poe on, this is what this character is wanting. So henceforth, he's almost like making fun of his critics in a way. I could be completely wrong, but that is what I gathered from it. Besides that, it was just, once again, kind of boring. It wasn't a horrible story. I could see where some of this type of humor would work for some people. It's just not really what I want from his writing style. I feel like his writing style, how old it is and at times confusing, I want his horror, because even if there is parts that may go over my head, I'm down to research it and look into it and to figure out what he means with every sentence, because it's intriguing to me. Where stories like this, I'm just like, I could care less. Like, I don't care. I then went on to A Predicament, which is actually book 2 or story 2 from this same character. She is out on a stroll for the goodly city of Dina, accompanied by her miniature poodle Diana and her elderly slave Pompey, only 3 feet in height. She suddenly confronts a Gothic cathedral of immense proportions with a steeple which towered into the sky. She was seized with an uncontrollable desire to enter the cathedral and to climb the top of the steeple to look at the city from above, which the three do, stair by stair, round by round, up and up, humorous, yes, but be prepared for science fiction and horror at Edgar Allan Poe's best. And with that, I will say I enjoyed this one so much more. I feel like it could potentially be a 4, but I think I'm still landing at a 3 just because there's elements of it that are still slow and boring. And I feel like if it would have done a little bit more for me, sold. But I just still feel like I'm landing at that middle ground where I can see where this is titled satire and not his actual horror. But with that being said, starting it, the vibes, that gothic and just like unnerving, unsettling feeling and anticipation, building of his story, it took me back to some of his horrors, and so I appreciated it so much more. Yeah, high 3. And lastly, I have Mystification. I hate when Goodreads doesn't give me like a good synopsis to be able to tell you guys, because some of his stories are just hard to explain and they're so short that like you're bound to be spoiled by some element of it. So I'm going to read from this person, Christie's review. She gave it a 2-star. She said, "It's so rare for me not to love a Poe story, but it does happen. Mystification is so focused on a satirical twist that the build can feel taxing to read. I felt that. The story focuses on the Baron von Jung and how amazing he is. All of the other university students are in awe of him. One night the Baron and a group of friends, including the narrator, are discussing things when one of them starts to talk about duels." She then goes on to explain about Poe and how like he did not approve of these duels that happened, and it just makes me think of like the ending songs from Hamilton and the duels. But apparently he did not agree with these duels, so he would make satire stories about them, and this was one of them. And I disagree. It was just, once again, boring. Any humor or funny bits just right over my head. That I kind of just feel like I'm kind of like in the same boat as her. It's like a 2-star. I wasn't invested whatsoever, and I don't know, it's just starting to put me in a little bit of a slump. I feel like I am going to have to read something else tonight and come back to Edgar Allan Poe tomorrow, because I'm gonna have to split these up a little bit. Like, I have no time to get in a reading slump right now. And I am back to update you guys. I will show you my cross stitch in a minute, but I read a few more. I didn't think I was going to last night, but I read a few more. I'm starting to think that this should be a video where I come back to you guys when I find one that I enjoy because the struggle is real. The first one up is The Man That Was Used Up. The description on Goodreads says the story follows an unnamed narrator who seeks out the famous war hero John A. B.C. Smith. He becomes suspicious that Smith has some deep secrets when others refuse to describe him, instead remarking only on the latest advancements in technology. When he finally meets Smith, the man must first be assembled piece by piece. The idea of this, I think, was really cool. It felt like I was reading almost like a Frankenstein, putting this man together. And those descriptions, amazing. Like, I felt like it felt like Edgar Allan Poe horror once again. I couldn't let it slide, the fact that the term "all used up" was because of this person's injuries. Also the fact that he was attacked by, and what it said, destroyed by Native Americans, then has him put together with his slave, his black slave. So like just parts like that in his stories, it's just hard for me to get past and to give good ratings, because I'm just like, it's a very common thing with like old writers, especially in that time period, but not to say that in today's day and age, like, it's okay, because it's not. I feel like he was very vague with any type of racism here, but I feel like there was still things implied, and it just really rubbed me the wrong way. Next one up was Diddling, and what a story to get through. It was literally just a descriptive story. The short story entry is an essay on diddling, a word which has gone out of style, yet it seems to us that it would still serve a very useful purpose today. What is a diddle? The best way to describe it can be found the dictionary to get money from someone in a way that is not honest. And he literally uses so many descriptions of this, which I feel like can be entertaining. Honestly, probably one of the most satire ones I've read so far, where once again, you can kind of see the humor from it and how that, I guess, could have been really funny, haha, back then. But it's still just kind of, okay, I'm trying not to be too harsh. It just felt like a waste of time. But I do appreciate the fact that it was kind of just a silly haha. There wasn't any like problematic things that I picked up before just like checking out. But I still wouldn't give this like a super high rating either. This next one, I don't know how to pronounce, you guys. Mellonta Tatua.
Mellonta Tatua by Edgar.
Mellonta Tatua. I don't know, this one might have been a lot more entertaining for me than several of the others. I wouldn't say this was super funny, but it was interesting because it was like about hot air balloons. It was like, for his time, supposed to be a little futuristic and about travel and talking about, I just love the opening of this, describing a hot air balloon and how it was made, then talking about silk, how silk comes from like silkworms and the process of breaking that down. And it was just really interesting, but just like the rest, over time, it gets boring. The next one, Xing A Paragrab, was pretty much just letters. It was the second to last piece of prose published in Edgar Allan Poe's lifetime. That's cool, but a businessman, the author calls him Touch and Go Bullethead, arrives in a city which Poe names Alexander the Great Nopolis, out west in the US, where he sets up a newspaper in direct competition with the older Gazette across the street. The pair begin attacking each other, editorially speaking, that is, and then disaster strikes. The newcomer runs short of the letter O and must scramble to get his paper out. Some will find it funny as Poe intended and some otherwise. And yeah, I just felt like it just ended up being so many letters being said back and forth. And there was literally like moments where it was literally just like actually just saying just random letters that they were typing. Concept cool, delivery not for me once again. And with that being said, since I've left you guys, we went to Barnes & Noble and I actually got my first Edgar Allan Poe book. Shocked, I know. I've actually been, over the past year, been trying out different ones from my library because I wanted to try to find the certain one that like had the most of his work. I'm still working on that, but I could not resist this cover, and it's in the same edition from Olive as my Exorcist copy, the green one. That's so cool. Set that I just had to have it. It does have quite a few in here, but mainly horror, which I appreciate because those are like my favorite. But I do believe there's a couple in here that I will get into in my next part, so stay tuned for that. But I did want to show it because it's really cool. And then little update, freehanding is actually going pretty well. This is what I've got so far. Really cool. I'm loving how it's turning out so far. Hopefully I keep that momentum up. I still have quite a bit to go because I've only gotten the one post and then over a little bit, and now I'm starting on some of the lettering. But yeah, I'm so excited to see how it does, and I just love it against this like tie-dye effect so much. But anyways, I will check in with you guys soon. I'm hoping to get to some more of these today. I feel like at this point I just need to keep the momentum up and just tackle through the satire because I'm losing my mind a little bit. I'm sipping on my latte and trying to tackle some more of these this morning, and I'm gonna say this next one wasn't horrible. Like, I didn't have a horrible time reading this one. It's The Angel of the Odd, and I think it's just because of the whole idea of this Angel of the Odd being like described as like a keg and wine bottles. Like, it's just, it's silly. So I can see the satire, I can see the humor in that. So this story follows, I guess it would be a narrator who's talking about this guy who has died. And actually by one of my like fears, because like you're taught in home ec to like when you're sewing to not put needles in your mouth, but I cross stitch a lot and I ever so often, you know, I catch myself like just holding my needle in my mouth for a minute while I'm like getting my floss. And you know, you're taught not to do that because you could accidentally swallow it, and that's exactly how this guy dies, is by swallowing a needle. It wasn't the worst ever, but I am still landing at a 3-star. The next one, upon research, is from an Arabian, or the Arabian Nights fairy tale, like story collection. Well, it's a spin on that. There's a story, 1001 Nights. So Edgar Allan Poe, being so funny, decided to do the 1002nd tale of Scheherazade. And just Scheherazade is the character who we kind of follow. Apparently, in the original story, she is meant to live happily ever after having completed her 1001 tales. With Poe, he's going to have to change that and make it not so. I found this one to be extremely long, extremely confusing, and also, like, this one was definitely one where I'm, like, Googling and trying to piece together something, but what I've gathered is, besides it kind of being, like, a satire twist on the original, like, fairy tale story, it is also just supposed to be written as riddles, like, throughout. So it's interesting as a concept, but I'm sorry, you guys. I know this vlog is so repetitive, and I hope it's not extremely boring, but this is just another one that I would just be like, just pass on. And like on Goodreads, I see that there is people who liked it, but I'm just like, it's not horrible. I would land at another 3-star, but it's just like, do feel like it's somewhat a personal opinion that I'm not landing with his satire work, but at the same time, I feel like it's going to be rare to really work with too many people. And with that being said, let's move on to the next, the Sphinx. And it is officially thundering. Since I've left you guys, we've had bad weather again. And now we're kind of like in a flood warning. Hopefully our area doesn't get too flooded. But yeah, it's just been tornadoes and now flood. And a crazy spring, let me tell you. The Sphinx is a short story about a man who decides to visit a relative living near the Hudson River north of New York City for 2 weeks. And during this, there is an epidemic in the city. An outbreak occurred during the summer of 1832, and one day during this visit, the man is reading a book near the window overlooking a scenic view of the Hudson River. His attention is focused upon, while like pondering about this epidemic, he is looking at this view, and he spots this creature over the hill. It is described as an enormous creature larger than any ocean-going ship, and it is climbing down this like embankment. This one I had a lot more fun with it because we kind of have like this creature feature going on and him like describing it and stuff. Again, it felt less in the humor side of things and more horror, although it's not scary. It's just interesting, sci-fi, if you will. I think I would give this one 4 stars because it was the first one that really like grabbed my attention, just about out of all of these, and I really stuck with it the entire time. I didn't feel like overly confused as to what was going on. It was interesting and also like incredibly short, so it wasn't like just boring and dragging on. And the last one I have read since I've left you is Why the Little Frenchman Wears His Hand in a Sling. What a title. And like many on Goodreads, I scoured Google and Goodreads to figure out what the I just read. Thank God it was another short one because it was just like, what was even going through his head while writing this? Like it's apparently supposed to be Irish slang, but what? But it was just so confusing. I don't know. If you know what happened in this story, please let me know, because I I don't get it. It went right over my head. And with that, I think I'm landing at a 1 star. Because I don't know what I just read. With that being said, though, I have only 4 more short stories to go. Dare I say I might tackle them today? Who knows? Because I'm like just Edgar Allan Poe out right now. But I am going to work some more on my cross stitch. I've made some progress. I've got 1 word done. I'm hoping to get the next one done so that I can have like, well, my design's over there, but like I could have this whole like bottom half done for this part. And then I'm hoping by the next part, I've made some more progress like on the other, you know, fence post, so that in the next part we can like finish the whole other half. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I am looking forward to more of his like fantasy work, but I'm just, his humor is like literally killing me. And as you guys can see, it has been literal months since I was filming this video. I started, like I mentioned in the intro, I don't want to be a broken record here, but I started my Edgar Allan Poe reading last year, and the goal was to continue it this year and finish it this year, and I wanted that to be more so like early year goal. And if you've been watching my vlogs, you would know that somewhere in March, April, I fell into my seasonal depression, and my reading stopped, my filming stopped, like it typically does during my seasonal time. And now, watching back the previous clips and editing them to see where I was at in this video, I was like, did Edgar Allan Poe throw me into a reading slump? It's because of him I had seasonal depression. But no, for real, it is now October. That is how far I've gotten. Can't really even see, but the last clip you would have seen literally this. I think I've added a little bit more, but that's it, you guys. I've been a mess, okay? So I'm going to start picking it up again. I'm almost done with the sweater I've been crocheting, so as soon as I finish that, I will probably start jumping back into this one, and the goal is still to finish out Edgar Allan Poe this year. I had 4 more funny satire stories to read, so I did those last night after editing what I had to see where I was at in this vlog. So no update as far as the cross stitch goes for all of those months. Besides the fact that I will be jumping back into it, I just have to figure out what floss I was using again and get some of the cat hair off of it. Yeah, and get back into that because what I will say, a little update for you guys, I will take some B-roll for, is I have now moved my desk upstairs, but that's not what I'm getting at. I have started my decor around my bedroom, which is going to be very vintage, like Halloween, year-round, because that's how we do it around here. But one of my shelves over here by like the cat tree is dedicated to Edgar Allan Poe. I have my Edgar Allan Poe short story book, as well as like a candle. One night we had girls' night and I did a painting of like the Raven from Edgar Allan Poe. So I have it up there and my cross stitch is gonna hang on the wall next to it. We'll show you guys that. Obviously I'm getting ready right now because I'm trying to do the whole 2 birds, 1 stone. We have stuff to do this weekend, so I'm going to get ready while I talk to you about these last 4 stories that I read. Okay, so the first one was 3 Sundays in a Week. This is a story about Kate and I honestly forgot his name. But it's like, it's a story about this guy that is like wanting to marry this Kate. But like it literally, like the description even, if you look it up, literally says, a young couple need the blessing of Uncle Rumgudgeon, however you say that, for their marriage. Kate is underage and has a plum as well. Uncle's response, today's Sunday, isn't it? Well, then you shall be married precisely, now mind, when 3 Sundays come together in a week. So it's supposed to be like this, like, you know, obviously impossible feat because you can't have 3 Sundays in a week. But the guy character in this tries to make light of it and make it into a joke that turns into a haha, like, I did it type of ordeal of 3 Sundays in a week to marry this, once again, underage girl. And from Poe's, like, history with underage girls, it's a little icky. I'm landing at a 2-star. I feel like some of the wording in that one was actually, like, more satire and funny than any that I have read from him, but, like, what? I put my cats out of my bedroom because they're always so loud in here, and now Moon is sitting outside my door meowing for me. The next one was The Devil in the Belfry, and this is about this, like, small, I almost envisioned, like, Salem, so, like, an old village town, and it really just talks about, like, the village and, like, or town or whatever, and how they run things. These people are, like, I don't know, there's talk about cabbage. They're obsessed with, like, clocks and, like, this bell tower that, like, chimes the time, you know, like how many chimes is the time of day it is or whatever. So they're, like, for some reason, like, really obsessed with that. And I mean, you gotta think back at that time, maybe that was, like, whoa, top-notch technology. But it's also, like, what they live their day-to-day lives by is knowing, you know, the time from this, you know, clock. And then this devilish figure playing a big fiddle who comes straight down from the hill, goes into the bell tower, brutally attacks the belfry man, and rings 13 o'clock, which is, you know, supposed to be, like, spooky. Actually, I didn't mind this one. I just felt like the actual big bang of the story was, like, a very rushed ending, where the rest of it was literally just about, like, the people who live in this town, and, like, they just were kind of boring. So I am landing at another 3. The next one was Lionizing. This is literally about a guy with a particular nose, and from his birth, he has been lionized for his nose, and this is apparently something that, like, you should be, like, really proud of and something that's great. Literally, this whole story is about this guy's nose. I was just like, what? Like, he's literally called a genius for having this nose. Christie's review on Goodreads I was looking at, and I agree with, like, her star rating, because I am also giving this a 2. I literally was just like, what the was that? But her review literally said, the story definitely makes fun of society for holding weightless things as some of the most important elements in life. In particular, Poe takes quite a few jabs at high society and royalty. But besides that, it really doesn't do anything. Like, it's just... I found my girl Christy, again, on Goodreads for the next one, 4 Beast and 1. And I agree. She said that this one feels similar to A Tale of Jerusalem. And I agreed. It was very boring. There's time travel to 3830 BC. We're in the city of Antioch. It's very descriptive of this town, and it goes into more of the silly side of describing what the ruler looks like. And that's literally the whole plot of the story. It was another one that just kind of left me feeling like it was very pointless to read. Another one that I would recommend skipping, because it's just like, in fact, landing at another 2-star, which has left me with 1 1-star, 6 2-stars, 8 3-stars, and 1 4-star. And even this taking me months to get through, like, oh. It is a bookish feat that I'm excited to, like, cross off the bookish bucket list of actually doing what I set out to do, of reading all of his work and experiencing all of the, you know, classics. But is Edgar Allan Poe funny? I don't think so. Like, I feel like there's a lot more of, like, a satire, dark humor in his horror than there is in any of these. And I get, like, our sense of humor was so much different then than it is now, but damn, was people super dull back then. Like, if that is what's doing it for you, we're just hilarious now. What can I say? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. That is the end of this video. Fingers crossed it'll just be one more Edgar Allan Poe video to finish out all of my reads. I'm going to be going into more of, like, his fantasy realm. So let me know in the comments if you've read any of his, like, fantasy tales, and I'm hoping for the best. I hope that it's at least better than the Satire. I'm hoping to make more progress on the cross stitch and complete the goal that I set out to finish all of his work in 2025. I think we can do it. I think that there is also a couple others besides the fantasies that like I have to finish, like Eureka, which I think is pretty long for like an Edgar Allan Poe story, but yeah, we'll have to sprinkle some of those in too. But besides that, I'm just that much closer. I'm sorry that this video was probably so boring and so dull-like. If anything, I hope that you just take away from it that if you're going to read from Edgar Allan Poe, the classics, read his horror, or pick up a short story collection like the one that I have that has like his most beloved stories, because those really are the best. I have found some gems here and there that you don't typically see in the most popular story collections, but some of them should just stay buried. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed somewhat. Maybe just seeing me miserable. And I will see you in my next video.
Sorry about that text you got, I didn't ever mean to send it so